Got a little surprise for you today. First published in 1985, this is the deluxe edition of Crisis on Infinite Earths, written by Marv Wolfman and illustrated by George Perez. This comes as a huge hardback volume with quite a nice dust jacket. I wish it weren't quite so glossy, and I wish that it retained its original shape. It kind of curls, but that's okay. Not a major issue. Let me show you what you get on the back. It's quite pretty. Now, why would you consider picking this volume up? If you've read anything by the DC team over the past, 30 years, even more now, almost 40 years, then they will have assumed that you've read this. It's kind of a strange assumption because it is a pretty old school comic book. However, this is really where the whole Crisis idea started. It's really where the idea of multiple universes started. And I guess you could say it's the transition between the classic DC comics where you have a good guy and a villain and the good guy wins, the end, wash, rinse, repeat. Here you have a complex universe with major crossovers happening for the very first time, and terrible tragedies happening. I got interested in this because I got into the Green Lantern. In the run-up in 2011 to the release of the movie, I didn't know yet what a terrible movie it was going to be. All I knew is that it was going to be about a superhero that I'd never heard of, Green Lantern, and I wanted to know a little bit more about Green Lantern before I went to see the movie. And so I picked up Jeff Johns' run on the Green Lantern, which is extraordinary. But there was so much there that I didn't understand, and that's what really got me started collecting DC comics. And I collected and I collected and I collected, basically trying to find anything that would explain what I was currently reading. So whatever it was that I was currently reading, if there was something that I didn't understand, I'd do some research. Where is this explained? And I would buy the comic where that was explained, but invariably that comic had something that I didn't understand, and so I'd have to go back and find the comic that explained that. And it's grown into a quite a silly collection, as in its scale. It's not as big as some, but it's certainly bigger than a 40-year-old father should really own, probably. And it brought me to this, and this is really the place where it seems to all start. Now, there's plenty in this that I didn't understand. Please don't get me wrong. But it was an origin that I was happy to start with. Anything that I didn't understand from here, I was happy to Google, because, to be honest with you, this really is going back quite a bit, and the style that I'd got used to in the new modern comics was so breezy, so easy to read, so beautiful graphically and so on, that yes, going back to something like this, where we're just going back to the age before Photoshop. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It is beautiful, but it's very different from what you get nowadays. And if you've read anything from the New 52, if you've read anything from let me see, Blackest Night, for example, this stuff all appears in there, and it appears here for the first time. It's all explained here. If you've read Metal, then you'll you may have been surprised about the mask, the Psycho Pirate's mask. Psycho Pirate's mask appears in this for the first time. There's just any time there is an event in the DC world, it references this. So, do I recommend reading it? Yes, thoroughly. Will you enjoy reading it? Probably. The truth is that it's so crazy that there's so much going on, and it's surprisingly modern in its style. It's just not as modern as the modern ones, the ones that you can pick off the shelves nowadays. Some of it seems a little bit trite, some of it seems a little bit quaint, but generally, you can see the anti-monitor appearing here as well for the first time. So all of this is, it's really, if you can get this under your belt, then everything that comes after it will make so much more sense. There we go. I guess that's the way I can explain this. Okay. Now, what do you get at the back? What you get at the back is almost worth the entry price itself. Look how much extra material you get here. And so, there are a few appendices, a few extras, some concept art, etc. But that's not what the point is. Let me get to the point. The point is this. The point is the history of the DC universe. Again, written by Marv Wolfman. And it's a 50-page or so history of the DC universe. And it explains everything that might be a little bit strange or obscure that happens in the books ever since in the DC universe. How it happened, why it happened. How we went from a world with Superman sneezing and blowing away galaxies to a Superman whose strength is more. I was about to say realistic, maybe not realistic, but certainly more restrained and more suited to an actual narrative arc. Okay, so there we are, and that's it. That's the end of the book. It's a piece of history, and again, if you haven't been put off by the DC movies, personally, I'm a Marvel movie person and a DC comic person. I find reading the Marvel comics difficult, and I just can't get enough of the DC comics. And yep, this is a perfect starting place. This is a perfect cornerstone from which to start, if not necessarily to start, to work your way back to, and a place to stop in the past. This works very, very well for that. Okay, well, if you enjoyed DC Comics, let me know in the comments below what you particularly enjoy. If you enjoy Marvel Comics and you think that I'm wrong and I really should pick up some Marvel Comics, then by all means comment on that as well. And don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps me with the channel. And to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be reviewing my Green Lantern collection in the near future. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.